So, Joe, you just announced that you are not going to run for governor of West Virginia, despite most of West Virginia loving you. You had great poll ratings there. You're going to stay in the United States Senate. Are you going to stay as a Democrat or as a Republican?
I'm a Democrat. I'm an American first.
Yeah.
And I'm a Democrat. No, I will stay as a Democrat. I believe very strongly in the values of how I was raised and where I came from. Let me just tell you what, finally, I've told people this before. It was a tough decision to make. And I started thinking about public service. Public service truly should be public service, not self-service. Had 6, it's unusual today, isn't it? I had 6 good years as a governor. I was 2 years into my second term when Bob Byrd died in 2010. I had to make a decision. It was a tough decision because I love the job. I'm made for that.
Isn't it more fun to run things than
much
sign
more.
on to other people's bills?
Much more. Well, I like to create a few of my own every now and then,
Yeah?
bills. But anyway, what it really came down to, and I started thinking about it when I had to make the decision. It was the toughest decision I ever made when Senator Byrd died. And I thought, we had a tremendous run. It was 2010. The rest of the country had hit the skids in 2007, 2008, going this direction. We kept going this way. We made some solid decisions. We did reforms. We did more services for the people in need and helped those who needed help and asked those that could contribute to contribute, do something. And it's the way we were raised. And so I thought, well, if I walk away, I walk away with a fulfillment that we accomplished something. And I did it, and it was still a tough decision. Now I've got to make the second hardest, toughest decision. Do I go back home? And the people have been very kind to me. It's very humbling that I've still had the support back home that I have on both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican. And I said, personally, that's what I would like to do. But being in public service, I couldn't do it because I don't think I've contributed enough or helped enough the job that they gave me up here. That's really what I just couldn't do.
So let's talk about the things you have to do. We're talking about the economy today. I'm going to have Mike Froman, the U.S. Trade Representative, up here in a bit. And I know that you're the most pro-trade Democrat there is, but you don't like TPP, you don't like TPA.
I haven't voted
so I've been
for one
trying
yet.
You haven't voted for any of it. So
I'm trying.
Yeah, you do not support the trade deals that we're talking about. Give us some insight into what you think what will be the impact as you see it. And what are the consequences of TPA and TPP?
Well, first of all, let me just say that no one's worked harder than Ron Wyden trying to find him. Ron really works hard, reaches out, and tries to do the right thing by getting all involvement in a very open process. So I commend him for that. They worked through it last night. TPA is a fast track, as you know, and Mr. Froman will talk about why it's needed for him to do the job he has to do. I can only speak for myself, and I will tell all of you, until this country, until we as a government are serious about doing tax reform, major tax reform, corporate tax reform that's meaningful, it'd be hard for me to look at any trade deal thinking it's a fair deal. It might be a free deal and a free and fair.
So you're saying the ecosystem has to be thought through?
Yeah, but if I want to make sure that we have the same opportunity in our country to keep the jobs here and all that, not just give the advantages away for other countries that are developing, but have open access to our markets. That's all. And I don't think our corporate tax laws are accurate or correct. I think they need to be changed.
Because you see companies, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you worry about companies moving abroad, deflagging, corporate inversions.
We're bringing a lot of new countries into this TPP, okay? And countries that a lot of corporations could, I think, go and do very well in and convince them there are certain ways they should be doing business and running their country. And also have open access back to our markets. With a competitive tax system, a corporately fair competitive tax system, I think we have a level playing field of keeping those jobs here, keeping manufacturing bases here, keeping the jobs that we need, and try and grow that middle class to a certain. Our disparity, our income inequality is just, it should be alarming to everybody. It should be. I don't begrudge anyone who's done extremely well, and I want you to do well. But I want to make sure that you did it in the same atmosphere that those who are struggling to do well are trying to get there.
Let's pivot from the trade question. We had Sean Donovan of the Office of Management Budget, Jason Furman up here. And the loose title they're talking is here. There are these big economic consequences from the sequester. And again, as the wobbliest Democrat in the Senate, you're sort of the pro-sequester guy.
What was that, the wobbliest?
Yeah. And weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
It's so unusual to see someone still in the middle, isn't it? So I guess I'm wobbling now.
No. But I mean, take us into your thought about the sequester, because you've been one of the more demonstrative budget hawks and said that the institution is not playing the role it should, so this sequester may be the way forward to a smarter, healthier thing. It's very different than what we heard today from two administration officials.
There's two things you don't waste in politics. One's a mandate and the next is a crisis. Anybody that gets elected that doesn't know more than that, those two things you never let slip by without making something good happen, you're in trouble. So I can only speak from experience. I became governor. I knew my little state of West Virginia wasn't as strong as it should be financially. My credit ratings weren't as good as they should be. And I was paying more to do business than other states were doing. So I wasn't competitive. I knew that. I had to do something. So I went to Wall Street, found out what my problems were. And I'm going to fast forward. I'm going to go backwards real quick and then come real back up. When I was 10 years old, I went to my grandfather and I said, "Hey, Papa, I just saw Charlie on the street corner. And boy, he's a beautiful person." And Papa says, "Oh," he called everybody honey. He said, "Honey," he said, "he is a great person, isn't he?" And I said, "Yeah, Papa. I'm a 10-year-old kid working for my grandfather in the grocery store after school." And this guy, everybody loved him. I said, "Papa, everybody loves Charlie." And he says, "Oh, he's just a wonderful guy." Papa says, "Joe, I bet Charlie gave you the show if he's back, wouldn't he?" And I said, "Papa, I bet he would." He said, "Guess what, Joe? Charlie don't have an extra shirt to give you. He didn't work hard enough. He didn't plan well enough." And I'm thinking, what bursted my bubble? And I said, "Papa," he says, "Remember, I'm going to tell you something. I hope you never forget it. If you're inclined to want to help people, keep yourself strong, not just mentally and physically, but financially." Fast forward, 2005, I take the oath of governor of the state of West Virginia. I know I'm not as strong and I can't help everybody I want to help because I don't have the finances to do it. And my grandfather's, his whole image pops before me. I'm standing on the steps of our beautiful Capitol and taking the oath. Keep yourself strong financially. I take off, go to Wall Street, find out what my problems. They boom, boom, boom. I go back, have a special session, privatize workers' comp, did insurance reform, did some tort reform, did tax reforms, expanded programs to those in need, and made those that could give something back start doing something. Our economy took off and never looked back. So I know it works. They call it dynamic scoring, call it dynamic growth, call it whatever. Confidence. I'm going to call it confidence because our budget surpluses got so large, and they kept saying, "What's happening here?" So I asked the forecasters, my economists, I says, "How'd you guys miss it so bad? How'd you miss it so bad, these forecasts?" They said, "Governor, we could not factor in confidence."
Confidence?
Confidence. When people have confidence that you're doing the right thing and they see good public policy, they'll invest. They'll take risk. They'll let the entrepreneurial spirit will flow. You're fine. Now, 2009, President Obama takes office. He's got a mandate and a crisis. If you're a Democrat and you want to blame the Republicans, go right ahead. They're at fault. And if you're a Republican and want to blame the Democrats, go right ahead. We're at fault. We've all not done what we should be doing to fix this thing. If we'd have kept the Clinton tax code in place, we'd have been debt-free by 2012. Totally debt-free. Can you believe that? Now where we are, 18 trillion, 100% of GDP. So
to the sequester, short form, is that the right way? Is there a better way? What do you see in the budget politics that are going on?
Well, if we're not going to do a budget overhaul, if we're not going to do a budget reform, if we're not going to do a Bowles-Simpson, it's the only thing kind of holding people's feet to the fire. Everybody says, "Do away with it. Come on, you're trapping us." Let me tell you how crazy sequestering was. The military, okay, we had sequestering. The military saying, we've got to be strong. We've got to defend the homeland. We all agree. But then we didn't have any flexibility within the sequestering to where they could move their money around. Money we had siloed. I said, it makes sense to me. Maximize your efficiencies before you need more. And there's waste all through it. But no one wants to get, that's the hard job. The easy job is just putting more debt to it. That's the easy job, and that doesn't fix anything. I'm scared to death we're going to hit the wall. I mean, we're carrying a lot of debt here, and I'm not sure if we can produce the economy we need to carry the debt and to make sure that the rest of the world has the confidence in it. I've never operated like this. Mm-hmm. And I know what works. I know that when I've had unmanaged debt, and again, my dad and my granddad would always say, unmanaged debt will make cowardly decisions that you would do. You will do cowardly things if you have unmanaged debt. You'll rob Peter to pay Paul. You'll rob Suze to pay Mary. You'll rob everybody just to survive. It's wrong. And as a country, we're doing that. We won't make the tough decisions. We can fix our Social Security. We can fix Medicare. We can fix all of these things. But everybody in this room is going to take a haircut. Everybody. You know what? And if you know we're doing the right thing, you won't mind. You just don't have enough confidence in government to do the right thing. That's the problem we've got.
So let me pivot from the budget cutting that you have laid out and understanding that everyone's going to have a haircut, and I sort of need a haircut. But when you begin looking at the other role that you play, it's priorities and investment. So when you think about West Virginia, you think about the nation and getting investment right. You've been a big advocate of doing more on infrastructure, more on the energy side. You were a big proponent of Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
In that broad arena of getting the infrastructure for the economy set right so that you get growth down the road, what do you think the country really needs to focus on?
Well, here's what I've said. If we had a budget that really worked, corporate reforms, individual reform budget, that really worked, and we got the junk out of the box, we reduced your rates as far as the percentage.
What are our chances of getting that?
It's not good because you've got to have someone from the top pushing it. There's got to be a passion.
Is Paul Ryan not pushing it?
Paul's pushing it to this, yeah, and I think he's made, I give Paul all the credit in the world. At least he's willing to put something out, whether I agree or not, starting block. But when you had a bipartisan committee of Bowles Simpson, 18 people, 11 people voted in favor. 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, you don't take that and run with it and claim it as your own? God help us. So we had a framework to work off of. It would have been revenue, it would have been basically expenses, and it would have been reforms. And the bottom line is we can't even get Democrats and Republicans agreeing on the definition of revenue. We've talked about this, Steve. My Republican friends have taken a no tax pledge. No new taxes, okay? Not going to vote for anything with taxes. That's fine. If I vote from 39.6 and get you 33, can't you go home and talk about that? Now, I've taken away a lot of the junk in the box. So at the end of the day, if you've been using all these wonderful high-priced accountants and lawyers who have all the answers, you might pay a little bit more money. But if you're paying more money, is that revenue? Did you raise taxes to do it, or efficiencies, or just common sense? So I said, what it really comes down to is how do we spend that new revenue? So let's say we get a tax system that really works. We get a territorial corporate tax system. We're competitive worldwide, globally. And we spin off $1 trillion. When all's said and done, everybody agrees with tax rates, we spin off $1 trillion. What do you do with $1 trillion? Can't we protect our Republican friends by saying, guys, listen, here's what we're going to do. 60 cents of every new dollar is going to go to debt reduction until we get to 65% of GDP to debt. 40 cents is going to go to infrastructure. We're going to create an infrastructure bank. Every state's going to determine their priorities and work out this infrastructure bank. We're not going to let a country fall apart. Can you go home and defend yourself? My friends say, yes, they can. They can talk to their good friends and say, listen, let me tell you, I know you think that you're paying a little bit more, but your rates are less, but you don't have all the offsets you had before. I understand that. And maybe you are paying a little bit more. But let me tell you how I made the Democrats spend it. We didn't grow entitlements. We didn't do any of this. Can you defend? Yeah. But you know what? What I just told you, that conversation is not being held where it's supposed to be being held. And that's the problem.
Before we go to the audience, we don't have much time left, and I appreciate you coming because I know you have votes up on the Senate.
Loretta Lynch got confirmed 66 to 34.
No. So just voted, and I know you've got some other things. We're going to go to the audience for a couple of quick questions. But, you sound like this whirling dervish inside the United States Senate down on the floor, willing to talk to both sides, give them advice on what they can, talk to their constituents about on economic choices that they've, taken pledges against, sort of creating space for both sides. Just give us an inside feel of how that goes over, how much progress you're getting. I mean, what are the atmospherics of making smart policy, getting people into a space out of their grooves? Just give us just a little snapshot of how it plays with Democrats, how it plays with Republicans.
Well, first of all, there's 100 of us in the Senate. There's 54 Republicans now, and there's 46 Democrats. If you're in control, you're in the Republican Party, and you're in a majority party, and you want to govern and get something done, you need 6 of me. It's just simple math. 54 and 6 is 60. You can't even get on the bill and move anything without. So who are they going to go to? I told Mitch one time I forget what it was on. I says, Mitch, if you don't have me, you don't have anybody. I said, at least if it doesn't make sense to me, I said, just
because I'm the wobbliest Democrat.
The bottom line is I'm looking to get something done. I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican.
Right.
It's
How did he take that? Did Mitch McConnell get it?
He said, "Fine." I said, when you're serious about policy, come and talk to me, and we'll get our moderates together and see how we can help, and maybe bring more people together. Mm-hmm. If it's about politics, and I understand, take your 54 and you'll have a party line vote and let it go, and use it for the next campaign. But sooner or later, people are going to want you to produce something, and so I look at that and I says, listen, I'm there to make something happen. I'll take a tough vote, and I'll go home and defend it. And I've taken tough votes. And people respect it. I says, I don't have all the answers, but I'm not always wrong. I've got some input, and I'm not always right. And I said, I'm not afraid to make a mistake. I'm not afraid to tell you I screwed up. I thought it would work. It didn't work. But you didn't send me there to get it right every time. You sent me there to try to get it right. And by trying to get something right, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. So with that being said, I said the system works if we all make it work. I'm a big proponent of this thing, and I think there's a lot more to do, and I think our country has come through tougher times than what we've put it in right now, and truly, all of us are responsible and should be held accountable to fixing what we broke.
Well, thank you for that snapshot. Let me open to the floor. This is a good opportunity to ask Joe Manchin questions, make comments, etc. Yes, right. Can you do it in brief form? Okay. Very brief form. Right here, the lady up front. The wrong lady. Here we go. You'll make me really happy if you can do it as a question.
Okay, if you can cut the 6 second lens. My question is, since you are going to represent the people, what would you do to eliminate the waste and abuse so people can feel a little bit better? For instance, to fix the policy brutality and fix the mass incarceration.
Interesting. Waste and abuse and the broader issue, which Jim Webb has talked a lot about mass incarceration and its effects.
Well, incarceration, I'll speak with that. I mean, it hasn't worked in my state. We haven't rehabilitated a soul that I've seen. So, and we put people away that shouldn't be put away. But basically, as a politician, if you don't vote for the tougher sentencing guidelines, you're weak on crime, and then your opponent will beat the living crap out of you. That's how messed up it is. Because no one's willing to go out and preach the facts. The facts are I'm putting people away first offense, and I'm not rehabilitating. I'm taking them out of a working society. I'm subsidizing by putting them away when they should be rehabilitating themselves and paying for that and working too. So we've got to have sentencing guideline changes. It's got to change. And we've got now Democrats and Republicans from the far right and the far left talking about it.
Have you been taught? I mean, Cory Booker and Rand Paul.
Cory's a dear friend of mine, and Rand, and I can work with all of them. And it's good to see. You got, the right and the left here talking about that.
You got Tim Scott, Tea Party out there saying the same thing.
Tim Scott's great about it. I'm taking Tim and Cory both to West Side in Charleston, West Virginia, which I have a horrific problem. You get an 18-year-old kid, an African-American 18-year-old, gets a felony at 18 years of age. We've lost them. They're gone. Somehow you're going to support them the rest of their life, whether you think you are or not, whether it's through crime, whether it's through subsidies, whether it's through entitlement, I don't know what. But I'd rather get that child back. When I was governor, I wasn't big on paroling people. Governors can give you the pardon. Okay, I can parole you. Wipe a crime away from your record. I was pretty tough on that. And it had to be somebody that really, maybe at a very young age, they had a crime, it was still on the record. They're 50, 60 years of age now. Everybody in the community wants to speak for them. I made everybody come forth and speak on that person's behalf. Then I would pardon if it was considered very nonviolent crime. I told Reverend Matthew Watts, I said, Reverend Watts, I'm going to take a chance. Let's try something. And that's right before Senator Byrd died. So I never got to implement this. I'm willing to take, if you're willing to stand, and this community will stand, for a young person that's about ready to get sentenced with a felony, for me to pardon that person if you'll take it, and let's try it. I was willing to do that. I knew I'd take a lot of flack for that, but it had to be done. Someone's got to step forward and say, listen, it's not about me, and it's not about what you're going to do to me in the next election. It's about this generation. I've got no one producing now. So, yeah, I agree.
So quick last question, what? Energy politics. You and John Hoeven introduced the Keystone Pipeline bill. You got it passed both houses of Congress, got vetoed. Was that a bummer?
You just asked and answered the same.
Yeah. So. So no, but and where does it stand now? I mean, I know that you're out there on energy.
Well,
You look at energy as big for the
let
state,
me
but
just say real
this
quick,
is your opportunity to kind of
my
whack the White House.
My quick whack on energy is this. I come from an energy-producing state, and everybody looks at me from West Virginia. Joe Manchin wants to continue to produce and make us use coal. I don't want to make you use anything you don't need to use. But you depend on the lights, and you want to work in the daytime. You don't want your electricity sparsely being rationed out to you. So I said this. It takes an all-in energy policy. You only have 2 fuels today that gives you 24/7 whenever you want it. That's going to be coal and nukes. Gas is coming on as a base load. Those are only 2 base loads. The renewables are not base loaded right now. We can't load them up and keep you reliable, keep the system energized for 24/7. Can't be done. Maybe will in the future. So the Department of Energy, EI, they all know they're going to need fossil to be used with the renewables to find the new fuel of the future. I'm for all of that. The only thing about it is, I said, I've been through the market changes in West Virginia on coal. I've never been in a situation where the government jumped on my back when the market has turned on me and tried to drown me at the same time. That's the problem I'm into right now. And Democrat, Republican, I don't pull no punches on this one. If we don't get this right, God help us all. But Keystone was all about security for me. We buy 7 million barrels of oil a day. We buy. Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, we buy it. Well, if we can produce it, friendliest nation we've ever had, and it's Canada, and it's the biggest trading partner we have. Yeah, and that's 35. It's the number 1 trading partner with 35 states. I've said that oil is going to be produced. They're a sovereign nation. They're going to do what they want to do. They're going to produce it. We're already buying 2.5 million barrels of that oil a day now. This is not new. Our refineries are refining it. We're using it. This is about the production of the oil sands. This is not about the pipeline. And I told they had 62 votes for it. Why wouldn't we do it? So with that being said, I know we got to go. Let me leave you one thing. My uncle was a very, very colorful politician. So if you want to know my whole take on where we are in Washington right now, it's his take on politics. He used to campaign. He was the youngest boy legislator, and him and Bob Burr were in the legislature together and this and that. Then he became Secretary of State, and he became treasurer. And they'd always ask, they said, Jimmy, how's the campaign going? And he never had any money. And so he said, oh, it's okay. How's your finances? He says, I'm running this campaign on bullshit and bumper stickers, and I'm running low on bumper stickers.
Hey, Joe,
we're not running low on bumper stickers here.
So just to wrap up, I know you're close to Jeb Bush.
Yeah. I like Jeb.
Are you closer
traveled.
to Jeb Bush or Hillary Clinton?
I'm with Hillary.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There you go. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Joe Manchin.